Disney is dark, at least in the eyes of some conspiracy theorists. On the surface, Disney's all daisies and rainbows, but dig a bit deeper and you may uncover some dark secrets. Be warned, these theories could change the way you watch your favorite Disney movies, so proceed with caution. Here are 10 dark theories in Disney movies you might have missed. Part 2.
What?
You remember how we met?
Well, I try not to.
Don't forget, if you haven't clicked that big red subscribe button yet, you should. It's fun.
So forget that I
Sheldon,
said that.
get out of Mr. Johansson's yard now! All right, you kids. Where'd you go?
Nemo is dead. Finding Nemo. After being knocked out during a horrific barracuda attack, Marlin wakes to find his entire family is gone, save for one cracked egg. According to the theory, Nemo's egg wasn't actually there, and the rest of the events in the movie are Marlin living out the 5 stages of grief. First, he denies that he lost his whole family and lives as though Nemo survived. Next, he's angry when Nemo swims out from the drop-off and touches the butt. The bargaining stage is his journey to find Nemo, believing that if he overcomes the trials, then everything will be okay. When he thinks he sees Nemo dead, he enters the depression stage of grief, wandering through the ocean without a purpose. And finally, when Nemo's caught in the net, he accepts that there's nothing he can do, and he lets Nemo go. It's a sad theory, but it actually matches up perfectly.
You and this fellow? Woohoo! Big summer blowout?
Royal Shipwreck, The Little Mermaid, and Frozen, and Tangled, and Tarzan? As we all know, Anna and Elsa's parents went to see what they could see, and they wound up in Davy Jones's locker. Some say they were headed to Rapunzel's wedding, because we see her and Flynn show up for Elsa's coronation later. If that is the case, there's a possibility that their ship sank close to Atlantica, and that is the ship that Ariel discovers in The Little Mermaid. So it's possible that Ariel stumbled upon their watery grave. But yet another Disney theory suggests that the king and queen didn't die. Instead, they were able to swim to an island nearby, build a treehouse, and have a beautiful little monkey boy named Tarzan. Of course, that means that they die at the jaws of a ferocious jungle cat. Boy, these folks just can't catch a break.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
It's all a lie. Aladdin. In the beginning of Aladdin, we're introduced to a peddler who tries to sell us, the viewers, on some random junk. Seeing that he's about to lose a sale, he pulls out all of the stops and busts out his most rare and mysterious item, a magic lamp. This piques our interest, but we're not sold unless this thing is really special. That's when the peddler begins his story about the true nature of the lamp, or at least that's what he wants us to think. He goes on about some Aladdin guy who finds the lamp in a cave and a genie pops out who gives him 3 wishes. What a load of malarkey. It's obvious he's just making it all up to make a sale. After all, he does look and sound a lot like Genie. He's probably fabricated the whole thing. Dopey is Geppetto, Snow White, and Pinocchio. Apart from looking very much alike, there's actually a story that goes along with this theory. Originally, there were 6 dwarfs, until they found a baby dwarf in the forest and took him in. He was mistreated as a child by being forced to do most of the chores, and they named him Dopey. All of the mistreatment caused him to remain silent for most of his childhood. As he grew older, he grew taller. The dwarfs realized that Dopey wasn't actually a dwarf, so they kicked him out. Dopey traveled until he found a place he loved and settled down in Italy, adopting the name Geppetto and opening up his own shop where he would go on to craft the doll boy Pinocchio. Evidence of his abuse is found in some of his wood carvings, which depicts acts of violence. We did say dark Disney theories.
Boss, mind if I squeeze in next to you?
Yes. No. I mean, why would I mind squeezing next to you?
Holocaust allegory, Toy Story 3. Yes, it sounds outrageous at first, but once you look at the evidence, it kind of makes sense. The toys represent the Jews who were left behind by the host nations, just like Andy left behind the toys. Buzz suggests hiding out in the attic and living there, similar to Anne Frank. Unfortunately, the toys are discovered and are sent to Sunnyside, or the concentration camp. Eventually, the toys are thrown into a furnace, but are saved at the last minute by the aliens, which represent the Allied forces. Finally, the toys find a new home where they can be safe, just like how the Jews moved into various refugee centers across Europe. Leave it to Disney to take one of the biggest tragedies in history and make it into a lovable cartoon.
Dip the apple in the brew. Let the sleeping death seep through.
Absence of mothers, Walt Disney. It's become Disney's trademark to have at least one parent die in movies, particularly mothers. Bambi's mother dies, Cinderella's mother dies, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, the list goes on and on. The theory behind this one is a true story and a tearjerker, so grab a tissue. After Walt Disney's success with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, he bought a house for his parents. They loved the house, but complained of a gas leak. Walt had some workers go to the house to sort out the problem, but it was never fixed properly. Walt's parents passed out from the fumes, and Walt's mother died of asphyxiation. Walt blamed himself and never got over his mother's death, which is why it's a common theme in Disney movies. Humans became cars. Cars. This theory puts cars into the distant future, or at least an alternate present. People have found that being in cars all the time is far more efficient than using them only as transportation. So they've developed a way to be completely synced up with cars all of the time. The cars are still being made with mirrors and doors, which means there must be people inside. So once a human is created, they're placed inside a car, their eyes are linked up to a device that lets them see as the windshield, and their limbs are connected to the tires. The inevitable pollution killed all of the animals and made living as a car a necessity. Instead of food and water, scientists developed a way to convert gasoline into the nutrients needed to keep the humans inside the cars alive. Yes, someone really came up with this theory.
Excuse me?
I was looking for, diversion!
What?
So long, sucker!
Bing Bong works for Monsters, Inc. Inside Out. Bing Bong is introduced as Riley's imaginary friend. He talks about how they used to spend so much time together playing and making her laugh. Eventually though, Riley grows up and forgets about Bing Bong. But what if Bing Bong was actually real? Some people think that Bing Bong is actually a monster that works for Monsters, Inc. He used to be her monster and would go through her closet door to make her laugh and gather energy. One day, Bing Bong suffers a terrible fate and dies, but the memory of him lives on in Riley as an imaginary friend. It's kind of a nice thought, at least until she forgets about him and he dies forever. That's kind of sad.
I have access to the entire curse word library. This new console is done.
What are you telling him, Mufasa? Mufasa? Simba?
Mufasa created the Drought, the Lion King. It's one of the most iconic scenes from Disney movies. Simba looks up to the sky and sees his father talking to him through the clouds. It's mighty impressive, and it led some viewers to believe that Mufasa can actually control the weather. When Scar takes over, Mufasa gets upset and causes a drought, creating the wasteland we see later in the movie. All the plants die, which causes all the herbivores to relocate, which means the predators have nothing to eat, kind of like that whole circle of life thing Mufasa talked about. The minute Simba overthrows Scar and takes his place on the Iron Throne, Pride Rock, it starts to rain again, and we hear Mufasa's voice one more time. So in a way, Mufasa almost killed everyone to prove his point about the circle of life. A bit extreme.
Hey, these guys are professionals. They're the best. Come on, they're not lying down on the job.
Andy's father left. Toy Story. They never do say what happened to Andy's father in the movies, but that hasn't stopped fans from developing their own theories. The easiest thing to say is that he died like all Disney parents, but after a closer look, the evidence points to something else. In the first movie, the family moves to a new house. We see that house in Toy Story 2, and it seems to be much smaller than the first, suggesting that they were downsizing. That doesn't necessarily mean that Andy's father didn't die, but if he did, the family would want to remember him by having pictures on the walls. In a scene where Woody is sliding down a banister, we can see pictures on the wall, none of which depict Andy's father. What makes the most sense, as sad as it is that Andy's father abandoned the family, leaving them with nothing and forcing them to move.
We toys can see everything.
So play nice.
Well, there you have it. Disney is not quite as family-friendly as you may have thought. So what do you think? Do you believe any of these theories? Let us know in the comments section. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button to find the latest and greatest videos CBR has to offer.